Now, we're going to read 2 Kings chapter 5. Our focal passage is going to start at verse 20. But let's just review what happened in the previous story, because they're going to tie together. There's a famine in the land. Elisha has already fed these people a time or two miraculously by the power of the Lord. And any power that he displayed, or any prophet in the Old Testament, don't think that was just them deciding they're going to do something. Doesn't work that way. And the same way with you and I. If we decide we're going to, do something, we're limited. We can only do what our own human strength and power and intellect will give us. But then God is able to go way beyond that and just flow through people and provide miracles that way. And that's what he did with Elijah, Elisha, and Moses, all those Old Testament people. And this passage today, we're going to follow up from where it ended last week with this guy named Naaman. He was part of another country, Aram, and he had a king. He was in charge of the army under this king. He had a leprosy disease, and he couldn't get cured. There wasn't a cure back in those days. And so people who were leprous were considered unclean according to the Jews and the Word of God. And you weren't supposed to touch them, weren't supposed to be around them. And they were sometimes required to sleep. There's places in the Bible you'll see them sleeping outside the camp. They weren't allowed to even be inside with everybody else. So Naaman gets healed, and by just dipping in a river, how many times? Everybody remember? How many times did he dip? 7 times. What was the name of the river? The Jordan River. Okay, a simple act. And then what God did when he came up that 7th time, guess what? He was as clean as he could be. But when he appeared on the scene, he got permission from the king. He'd heard about Elisha and the miracles he could do through a little slave girl that had been taken away from the land of Israel and became a part of his household. And she told her mistress, I know somebody, I wish that prophet named Elisha was here, he could take care of this disease that Naaman has and make him better. Well, Naaman got word, so he went to the king, and said, look, heard about this curing guy, this healer over in Israel. Can I go to him? So he said, yes, sir. I'll write a letter, send you on your way. Now, look back at verse number 5, because this is going to be important in today's lesson. He went with gifts, okay? And custom in those days, from what I've seen in other places in the Bible, is when people would go visit a king from another land or wherever, sometimes they would carry gifts to that king. Now, these gifts, some of these were intended for Elisha, if not all. It doesn't make that clear, but look what he has, verse 5. Then the king of Aram said, go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So he, Naaman, departed and took with him 10 talents of silver. Now, you couldn't put, that's more than a pocket full, okay? That's 750 pounds of silver, or the equivalent to, on today's price of about $22 an ounce, that's about $264,000 worth of silver. Who'd like to have a bag of silver? But yes, we'd love to have that. And then not only silver, look what else he carried with him, 6,000 shekels of gold. 6,000 shekels of gold. All right, this was 150 pounds, so less gold than the silver. Who'd rather have the silver than the gold? Raise your hand. Let's see how smart you are. Who'd rather have the gold, 150 pounds gold, than 750 pounds of silver? You made the right choice. Today's price of gold being just a little over $1,800, around $1,800 an ounce. It's kind of up and down, but it's equated, today's equivalent would be $4,320,000. Anybody? Y'all couldn't use that kind of money, so let's just move on and read about something else. Oh, we got to leave this out. Look at what else in chapter 5, verse number 5. And 10 changes of clothes. Now, I doubt he went to Goodwill and just picked out something, so I'll carry these do. Okay, I'm thinking nice suit, nice tie to go along with it, and probably a nice shirt, probably even some cuff links, and a tie tack, all that stuff. Probably something that would deck somebody out good. You know, you guys and girls go to proms and fix yourself up nice. Or some of you have been to proms, 60 years ago, 50 years ago, further. Anyway, you dress up nice for those special occasions. I'm thinking this was nice clothes right here. Maybe tuxedo guys, I don't know. But how many of them? How many changes of clothes? 10. Probably had the socks and the shoes and that other part you wear. It was probably all right there, belt and all. And 14. So he went down, he dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God. His flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. He was healed. Now, verse 15, when he returned to the man of God with all his company, he came, Naaman did, got healed, went back to Elisha. Now he says, behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. So please take a present from your servant now. All right, he had this silver and this gold, and he had these changes of clothes. But look what Elisha said. He says, as the Lord lives before whom I stand, I will take nothing. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. When I first read that, I thought, my Lord, if you'd offered that to me, I'd have stuck my hand out probably, But Elisha wasn't supposed to here. I don't know why he didn't, but the fact is he didn't. And we're supposed to be on the giving end, not on the receiving end as people of God, see? And blessing, the Bible says it's better to get wisdom and understanding than silver or gold, Whatever we can get from God. And there's other verses where a writer says, don't give me poverty nor give me wealth, just give me what's my portion in between, because if I'm rich, I might not know you as Lord. And, you remember that verse in Proverbs. So don't, and the Bible also says, don't weary yourself to gain wealth. Cease from the consideration of it. Your goal is not to get rich. Your goal is to get rich in God, not in material things. And when you follow God, the Bible teaches He'll give you everything you need. See? And it also says, wealth, if you start chasing after wealth, you're going to see that wealth makes itself wings, and before you know it just flies away. You can be rich today and just be broke tomorrow. I told you about my friend in Pensacola who was in the banking world and worked his way up to where not only was he over one bank, but he was over several banks. And so he had a great pension plan, and he had, probably stock in the company. And guess what? When he retired, it wasn't long. He lost every bit of it. That wealth made wings and just flew off. But because he was rich in God as well, God has given him another job, and he's making money back, and it won't be long, he said, before he's able to retire again. So it's better, young people, if you put your heart heavenward. In fact, Paul said, don't set your affection on things of the world, but set your affection on things up high in heaven. You start following and getting rich in God, and you're guaranteed, it's a promise, you'll have everything you need. That's why I'm not worried about the stock market crash. I'm following God the best I can. And it's supposed to be, some of them, people are saying it might be a shortage on food. That might be a shortage on gas. Electricity might go off sporadically. Who knows? But listen, if I need gas, if it goes to $100 a gallon, if I need it, guess what? God's going to give me some, right? If hamburger becomes $20 a pound. It's almost there now, isn't it? But if I need some more of it, God's going to give it to me. And He'll give it to you as well if you're not a person that's just seeking wealth and riches and leaving God out of the equation. Okay? Put Him first. Jesus, His words, seek ye first God's kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's a good message. We can just go home right there on that. But let's finish this story here, okay? Now, here's the focal passage, and I'm just going to go through rather than read it now, because I'd be rereading anyway. I saw this, and I don't know, I was thinking last night, this may be the best story right here with Gehazi pointing out all the steps and progression of sin that I can remember in the Bible. I've seen others, but not so detailed and so much progression. So what happens here, let's just read verse 20, okay? So, but Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought, now this is after Elisha said, no, I don't want none of your presents. I don't need any of your silver. Don't want none of your gold. Don't want none of your tuxedos and patent leather shoes, what all you got. I don't want none of that. Nope. The answer is no. Don't try to give me anything. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought, behold, my master has spared this Naaman the Aramean by not receiving from his hands what he brought. He says, as the Lord lives, I will run after him and take something from him. He decides, man, if he's got this stuff to give away, I'm going to get me some of it. I'm going to see if I can't have some. Now, it was off limits for Elisha. Probably it was off limits for everybody around there, all right? Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to always receive a gift, but in this story, it was, as we'll see. It was wrong for him. Now, what happened with Gehazi? He must have had a little bit of sin inside of him. He must have had a little love for material things, and maybe Naaman might have pulled out a handful of them silver pieces that he had, and they might have reflected and just caught his attention, and maybe some gold in the other hand. He said all this, and man, I've been wanting to get my bicycle fixed, or I've been wanting to get me a new horse, or a new whatever, a new car, a four-wheeler, and he probably thought of all the things, and so in him, this sin, sin always wants stuff that's off limits, see. Sin and lust are kind of, lust is a result of sin. Lust is that just desiring, just strong desire, lust is. And when you just start thinking about something, boy, it's just something, a rage within you. It's a burning within you. Boy, I wish I had that. Same thing as covetousness. You ever heard the word covetousness? One of the Old Testament commandments is, thou shalt not covet. Don't desire something that God don't mean for you to have. If it's off limits, it's off limits. If it's not yours, and it says don't desire your neighbor's property, don't desire your neighbor's wife, don't desire anything that's not yours and belongs to somebody else, don't get a desire saying, I wish that was mine. Boy, I want to have that. Well, Gehazi, I don't know what the proper word would be, but inside of him, I know there was a desire. There was, you could probably correctly call it covetousness. You probably could correctly call it lust. You probably could call it a desire out of control. But look what happens. Inside of him, he thought, and that's the first progression. I've got 10 things about the progression of sin. 10 progressions of sin. The first one, after we're born with sin. You're going to have a desire for things that's off limits, right? And you get saved, you still have those desires. The difference, as we've said multiple times, is God will not allow you to be tempted above that you're able. But He'll always make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it, okay? So, but until you get God in your life, it's like an old brim out there on the brushy pond. You get your earthworm out there on that pond in the right spot where an old brim is on top of a brim bread, and you throw that hook out there with that worm on it, that worm just can't resist. That fish can't resist. He's got to have that worm, right? And he bites it on it, and eventually, if you're a good fisherman, he gets hooked, and it's just too late. He's done gone too far. See? And that's the way it begins with us, a desire. But I don't know if fish can think and do these things we're talking about, but I know you and I can. Gehazi first messed up by thinking about this. Look what he says. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought he should have never started thinking about it. Now, listen. Some thoughts are going to come through your mind that you're not going to have any control over. The devil's going to whisper in your ear before and after salvation, but the difference is don't be thinking about what you're thinking about. Right? Don't keep thinking about something. If you know it's off limits and you're headed toward a messing up, if I do that, yeah, I like it, but I don't know. I know it's wrong, but boy, I sure would love to. It's like rutabagas, Somebody may have a weakness in here for rutabagas. It may be that a rutabaga is just off limits for you, but if you're not careful, you'll find yourself thinking, well, I'm not, rutabagas, I kind of like them things, And, some people love rutabagas. I don't. I have to make myself eat them if I'm going to eat one. If I do, it's for nutrition. It's not because of taste. Some of you love rutabagas. Got any confess? Oh, man, y'all messed up. But I did eat some this week twice just because of the nutrition aspect, all right? But some people may have a problem with rutabagas. I'm going to use that as a, what's the word for it? A parallel to a sin that somebody may have without naming your sin. You know what your sin is. I don't need to tell you, right? You already know what you battle on the inside. And if you're not careful, you'll be thinking about rutabagas, if you know they're off limits for you. But if you don't think about it, when the devil says rutabagas, and he just backs off and looks at you, to you he may dill pickles. It may be something else or whatever it is for you, It might be bad pictures, or whatever. But he knows what your weakness is. And if you're not careful, you start thinking about it too much, then you'll start doing these next things. Look what happens here. By the way, verse in Proverbs 23:7, if you want to write this down, Proverbs 23:7, as a person thinks within himself, so he is. You keep thinking about something, you'll end up doing it or becoming it. See, you'll get involved with something. And that's, that's whether it's good or bad. That's just the truth. What you think about is what you end up doing. So there's good thoughts and there's bad thoughts. We're talking about a bad thought here. And then the next thing we see doing, he thought about it so long, and it didn't take long for him. But the next step, if you're not careful, you will develop a plan to get you some rutabagas, right? If you get to think about it, you just get worked up on the inside. Man, I got to have some rutabagas now. I'm just going to have some. And with him, I just got to have some of that silver and gold. I just got to have me one of them tuxedos. And so he developed a plan. He developed a plan. He thought, man, I'm just going to go after him. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to get me some of this. And look at verse 20, the last part. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and take something from him. Thoughts precede actions, but if you're not careful thinking, you're going to make a plan. That's what he did. First the thoughts, now thoughts turn into plans, okay? And this plan began to be implemented, and it became, here's the next step, number 3. Number 1, the thought. Number 2, the plan. Number 3, the action to pursue. Okay? The implementation of the plan, you could say. Verse 21, so Gehazi pursued Naaman, and when Naaman saw one running after him, he came down from his chariot to meet him and said, man, is everything all right? He saw him running. Is everything okay? Is it well? So there's the action to pursue. And so be careful. You'll have those thoughts. You need to cut it off right there, or you're going to end up making a plan. You're going to be headed for some trouble. Okay? And this is what happened. Then there's the action to pursue. So he starts implementing the plan. And then as he gets asked, is everything well? He's right there on the scene where this sin is at. He's right there. Oh, man. Temptation is fixed and become yielded to right here. Verse 22, he said, all is well. My master has sent me saying, do what? Elisha sent me to say, he lying. Oh, you see how sin starts messing you up? You get started and thinking about sin, and boy, you can justify, and if you're not careful, you'll be finding yourself telling a big old lie to get what you want, and now you've committed 2 wrongs. So he lies. So there's the lies. There's a deception of sin, you can say, in verse 22, the first part. And that's number 4, the lies, the action to pursue. Now the lies. My master has sent me saying, behold, just now 2 young men of the sons of the prophets have come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. He's lying. Elisha hadn't said nothing like that. This is something he's made up. Now he's continuing his plan, see? His sinful plan to sin. Verse number 22, the other part, we find number 5, the action of requesting. Okay? I couldn't think of a better way to word that. I tried a few things. I said, let me just leave it there. The action of requesting. He says, please give me a talent of silver. 75 pounds. Okay? First, silver was 750 pounds. This is a talent. It's 75 pounds, or $26,400 worth of silver. That's not much to ask, is it? He just went out there and said, well, I won't ask for all of it. I'll just ask for a little bit. Give me a talent. Just 75 pounds of silver. And don't want all the clothes, just 2 changes. So he's lying. And he's saying that Elisha said send for this stuff. See? So he's lying. He's getting it for himself. And then we see the provision made. You keep pursuing sin, the devil will provide the opportunity. He'll provide. He'll make the provision for you. That's what that word means. Provide, provision, same thing. He'll put the people there. He'll put the situation there. He'll put there exactly what you want. If you keep thinking about it, making that plan, pursuing. And here's what happens. Verse 23, Naaman said, be pleased to take 2 talents. And he urged him and bound 2 talents. He said 2 talents. But wait a minute. He asked for 1. Well, he just given him a good dose of it. You're not going to get 1. I'm going to give you 2 talents. You take these back to Elisha. He urged him and bound 2 talents. That's 150 pounds. That's $52,800 worth now. It doubles. And 2 changes of clothes, and gave them to 2 of his servants, and they carried them before him. All right, 150 pounds. He couldn't carry all that back by himself. It was so much. See, he done messed up big time now. All right. Verses 21 through 23 were a discussion. He gets there to Gehazi. Gehazi gets there to Naaman, and then this discussion about sin takes place. Naaman was innocent. It wasn't about something for sin. He was just trying to be a nice person. He was trying to be, a good man here. But now, with Gehazi, this discussion starts, and it carries on from verses 21 to 23. Can I tell you something? This was a discussion that should never have happened for Gehazi. Never should have happened. Gehazi, as you're going to see, ends up a messed up man because of this. But if he had never opened his mouth, he'd have been all right probably. See, he had these thoughts, he had this plan, and this plan now involves conversation about sin that ended up helping him to sin, to commit the sin that he committed. And if he'd have never opened his mouth, and for him, he was having a serious discussion about sin. He wanted something so bad, he went running after it. Next, he got into a discussion about it. Listen, can I just tell you, there are certain discussions you've got no business being a part of. If you know you got a weakness about rutabagas, and you got a desire for them, you go talking to somebody about rutabagas, you better be careful. Somebody's going to put them right in your face, and you're going to end up like Gehazi if you're not careful. A lot of sin could have been avoided by you and I if we just learned to keep our mouth shut. Amen? Don't be talking about your problem to somebody else. You got a weakness. Listen, the devil will put somebody there for you to talk to. He'll help you create that plan. And if you can just cut it off, first of all, try to cut it off when you're thinking, and you'll end up safe and not commit sin. But if you get a little bit too far and you get involved in the plan, try to put the brakes on the plan. And whatever you do not open your mouth about what your plan is. Just shut it down, repent, and get back to God. Get away from where you are. Gehazi wanted it so bad that he started mouthing off about it. And he was even deceptive. He lied in the conversation just to help him get what he wanted. He wanted sin so bad, he sinned to get more sin. He wanted it, he ran after it, he engaged in conversation and reached a point of no return. Ever been there? If you're not careful with sin, you'll get so close to sin, you'll reach that point of no return, and there's no turning back. No turn back. You don't want to get there because, especially if you belong to God, there's a tail whipping on the way. Pardon my words for saying that. The Lord knows how to get a hold of, and it teaches that those that belong to Him, He chastises. Okay, He's got a big old belt, and sometimes you wish it was all it was, a belt. I remember one time, my daddy got aggravated with me when I was a little boy, and we were at a fish fry somewhere. Mama stayed home that time. It was me and Tommy, I think, went. Lynn might have been there. I don't think Lynn was there. I think Lynn was so small, maybe that's why Mama stayed home. Me and Tommy went with Daddy to some fish fry somewhere, And I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be running around in between people and stuff, but it wasn't long. I guess he must have told me a time or two. And, you get involved in what you ain't supposed to be doing, and you just turn everything off. Your focus is so strong. I don't care about, I'm shutting everything. I'm going to get this. Well, as a youngster, I was having fun, but Daddy I wish he'd had his belt. He picked up a piece of tree root off the ground about this long. It was about like a bullwhip. That thing hurt worse than a belt. I thought, my goodness, I don't want no more of that. But it straightened me out. And don't let God have to straighten you out, because he can do it. He'll take whatever it is. He might pull your gallbladder out of you, and show it to you. He might give you kidney stones or whatever. But whatever it takes to straighten you out, you can rest assured he knows how to do it. Gehazi. He wanted it. He ran for it. He engaged in conversation, reached that point of no return. And Satan wants to trap you. He wants to trap me with sin. He first gets us started to thinking about it. Next, he helps us to make a plan to sin. And next, he provides an opportunity for the plan to be implemented. And as the plan is underway, the person still isn't guilty of the sin, but Satan knows that 99% of the time, if I can get them talking about it, if I can get them discussing this sin with another person that can provide what they want, they'll end up in sin. There won't be any turning back. And Satan will say, I got them. Bless God, I got them again. He knows just how to do it. Some of you know just how to catch a fish. Well, Satan knows just how to catch you. He knows what to bait the hook with. He knows just how far you will go. And he knows at one point, especially if he can get you talking about it, there ain't no turning back. In the right company, if you don't want to catch fleas, don't run with the dogs, right? Remember that old saying? So some of you maybe need to watch who you're hanging out with. You might need a new crowd. There's no return if you're not careful. There's some people you don't need to be around. There's some people I don't need to be around. Secondly, there's certain people you don't need to be talking to about the sin you're wanting to carry out. You're just foolish if you get in that kind of discussion, because they'll make it so available, you'll end up being at a point of no return. Gehazi, as we've said, should have never been running toward an opportunity for sin. But when he got there, once he was there, instead of asking for clothes and gold and silver, or silver and clothes, he should have asked for some duct tape, put it across his mouth, and then walked on away from there. He should have got smart quick, but he didn't do that. He didn't do that. So that's the number 6. Number 7, the sin. When he came to the hill, he took them from their hand. They were carrying it. He still wasn't his. But in verse 24, when he came to the hill, they were carrying it before him. He took them in his hand. There's where the sin is right there. He finally yielded to it. Now he's got it. He's probably looking at them carrying that stuff all the way, thinking, boy, this is fixing to be mine. I'm fixing to have this. I've been wanting this for a long time now. It's fixing to be mine. And he had it. And then there's the ownership there in verse 24, the last part. Look, here's where I get this. It says, and he deposited them in the house. One another version said he stored them in the house and sent the men away, and they departed. So now it's his. I was interested in that word deposit. Me and Mr. Edenfield were having a little discussion. I didn't have enough time to go in, but this is that part I was talking about, Terry. He deposited them. I was interested that he didn't say in the God's word that he put them in the house. But the word deposit is there. And I got to studying that word a little bit. And sometimes it's translated, he numbered them in the house. He put them there. And usually if you and I go to the bank and make a deposit, it's for security purposes, right? More than anything else. It's mine, and I don't want anyone else to get their hands on it, see? So his plan was, boy, this is mine. This was really locked in now. It's sure enough mine. He really took ownership. But also, when I make a deposit in the bank, it's private. I don't want everybody to know what I got in there. It's not that I got so much they want me to come and be their friend. It's that I got so little they might laugh at me of what little bit I got. See, I don't want them to know how little bit I got. And so it's a private thing when you make a deposit. No one else can see it. No one else will know I have it. No one else will know what I do with it. The sin is in a secret place, except Big Brother, the deep state. They probably know where it goes when we write our checks. Okay, if you pull out cash, they can't trace that so much right now. They might later. But it's in a place of storage when you make a deposit. It's in a place when Gehazi deposited this so that Gehazi can go back and get it and enjoy it, or enjoy what it can do for him whenever he pleases, just like money in the bank. If I want to go get a little bit of it, like my wife had a birthday last Friday, so I went and pulled a little bit out. Went to the Dollar Tree, got herself a nice present, and I put the rest in my pocket. That's my story. No, I tried to carry her out somewhere nice to eat. We celebrated. We went out to Joshua's and Courtney's, and they fixed a nice meal for Friday night, but I did carry her out for lunch yesterday trying to carry on the celebration. But with a deposit, you're able to go kind of back and forth and get it sometimes if you want to add more to it. And I'm guessing he probably already had a collection going on. He was just adding on to what he already had. And it's hid. Nobody knows about it. You think you think he had it in a place where Elisha's going to pass by and be able to see it? I guarantee you, he didn't want Elisha to know about it. It was a private, secure place. And that's the way it is with sin. People want to cover up certain sin, And verse 13, Proverbs 28, he who conceals his transgression will not prosper. You might get by for a little bit. You might can fool some people, but you're not going to fool God. Proverbs 14:12. There's a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. There's a way that seems right, but it ends up, it's a path of death. It's a thing of death. Well, there's the ownership. Two more things. Number 9 real quick. The revelation. The revealing. Now this thing is fixing to go public. God always knows, right? Sometimes God will tell other people. I've seen people I've worked with, I've been to school with, and once in a while a believer will say, I don't know what it is, but something's going wrong at home. I'm just worried about this person. I just know something is not right. And they'll call and find out all kind of stuff that God's told them. And that's what happened right here, verse 25. But he went in, Gehazi did, and stood before his master Elisha. And Elisha said to him, where have you been, Gehazi? He said, your servant went nowhere. I ain't been nowhere. He lied again. Now he's having to cover up, see? Just that's the way sin works. Then he said to him, verse 26, did not my spirit go with you when the man turned from his chariot to meet you? Gehazi, is it a time to receive money and to receive clothes? And he went on to say other things that's not mentioned in the story. Is it time to receive olive groves and vineyards and sheep and oxen and male and female servants? Is it a time for getting things? And so it was a time for giving, evidently, and here he is getting. So there's a revelation. How in the world did Elisha find out? God knew. He didn't hide it from God, and God told Elisha. There's a verse in Numbers chapter 32:23. You've heard it before. It says, be sure your sin will find you out. Be sure your sin will find you out. You might can hide it for a minute or two or a day or two from everybody else, but you'll never hide it from God. And eventually, he'll reveal it to somebody else and maybe even a lot of people. Luke 12, Jesus said, there is nothing covered that will not be revealed. There's nothing hidden that will not be made known. Accordingly, whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the light. And whatever you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed upon the housetops. And then the final thing here, the revelation of his sin. And in verse 27, we see the punishment for his sin. Verse 27, therefore, the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and to your descendants forever. So he, Gehazi, went out from his presence a leper as white as snow. Just like that, This guy that took what he wasn't supposed to have, God punished him, and he became a leper. Not only him, but it says it clung to his descendants. It was supposed to be clinging to his descendants, following him as well. A few more verses in closing. Proverbs 15:27. He who profits illicitly troubles his own house. Proverbs 10, verse 2. Ill-gotten gains do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. Righteousness delivers from death. Proverbs 13:25. The righteous has enough to satisfy his appetite, but the stomach of the wicked is in need. Proverbs 16:8. Better is a little with righteousness than great income with injustice. Proverbs 16:20. He who gives attention to the word will find good, and blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. He who gives attention to the word will find good, and blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. Proverbs 22. A good name is to be more desired than great wealth. Favor is better than silver and gold. The rich and the poor have a common bond. Now this is very important. The rich and the poor, they got something in common. The Bible says the Lord makes both of them. Some people he makes rich, some people he makes poor. If he wants me to be poor, no matter how hard I try not to be poor, I'm going to be poor. If I'm not supposed to be rich, no matter how hard I try to get rich, that's up to God, whether I get rich or whether I get poor. The key is, love his word, trust him, and he'll give you everything you need. He'll also give you help from sin. So be careful when thoughts come that aren't supposed to be things that we're supposed to be thinking about it. You can't stop the thoughts from coming, and especially if you don't belong to the Lord, and the Lord's not your Savior. But once you do, you'll be able, with the power of Spirit, to put to death all these thoughts and to quench all these through the power of the Spirit. God will help you. And if you're not careful, though, you can still, if you're thinking about things you shouldn't, you can get a plan of action, you can get the conversation and get to that point of no return. And then you'll end up being punished if you're not careful. Let's stand together in prayer.